Thank you, everybody. It's 3 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and kick off with roll call. Paula?
Jorge Charnico.
Here.
Lee Peoples.
Here.
Anthony Blatt.
Here.
Dylan Bradway. Donna Cervantes.
Here.
Matt Guillory.
Here.
Tyler Holmes.
Here.
Ben Sellers.
Here.
And James Barnum. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Paula. Everybody should have received in their packets a copy of the June 27th minutes. Are there any comments in regards to the minutes?
Motion to approve June 27th minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor
Aye.
of approving the minutes? Opposed? Great. This month we have no cases withdrawn and we have no continuance request. We do have a fairly healthy consent docket. Tyler?
I will recuse myself from the consent docket.
Thank you. Michael, if you could just give us an overview, please.
Yes, for the Commission's consideration, items on the consent docket are projects that exceed the threshold for administrative approval by staff and must come to the Commission for action, but we reviewed them all and determined that they all are in compliance with the applicable development regulations and design guidelines, and therefore placed them on the consent docket for your consideration.
Does the Commission have any questions in regards to any of the items on the consent docket? Is there anybody in the general public that would like to speak on behalf or against any of the consent docket items? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent docket?
Move to approve the consent docket.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. We will move on to the cases for individual consideration, and we'll start with UDCA 17-00028. Michael, could you give us an overview?
Yes, this item is a revision to a previously approved case Commission acted on back in 2017. At this time, the applicant has approached the city to have some revisions made to the windows throughout the building. And you may recall this building involves an existing structure plus an addition that was added to the rear of the building. So for the most part, this is dealing more so with the existing window openings and the existing structure at the front of the site. We've identified for the Commission's consideration a variety of guidelines that apply to window replacement from the city's building conservation and rehabilitation guidelines. And for the most part, it suggests that original window opening sizes should remain intact as buildings are being renovated and rehabilitated. The applicant has proposed two options with this request. The option A is just replacing all the window openings and retaining all the existing sizes, and that would be in compliance with these guidelines from the rehabilitation guidelines that the city has. Second option, however, involves 4 windows that would be changed in size. There would be 2 at the north elevation, 1 on each floor, and 2 at the east elevation, 1 on each floor. And the reason for this change that has been requested is that on the inside walls of those locations, there is cabinetry being proposed on the interior, and that would necessitate removing the lower portion of the window. Pursuant to the guidelines from the rehabilitation, the conservation and rehabilitation guidelines, staff has reviewed those against the proposal and determined that it would be acceptable to make the change to the window sizes on the east elevation where it is not as a prominent view. There's a structure adjacent to it and a lot of vegetation between the two structures that makes those windows less visible. However, at the north elevation, we believe that those window sizes should be retained as they are prominently displayed at the north elevation, and they are logically tied to the sizes of 4 other windows on that octagonal feature at the front of the building. And we believe that to change those sizes would unbalance the look of the building at the front. And therefore, we've made a recommendation to approve the project utilizing option B. However, that the elevations should be changed at the north elevation to return the 2 windows at the left side of the north elevation to their original sizes, and also that where the windows are, the lower shutters of the windows are closed on the east elevation, that the material used to seal those openings should match the exterior siding materials that would been approved for the project earlier. That concludes our presentation. We're prepared to respond to any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions from the commission for Michael? Great. If you could state your name and sign in, please.
Sure. Ken Fitzsimmons on Task Design on behalf of Kina Oden, one of the owners. And I submitted this project, and I agree with Michael on all the issues except that we really would like to have those 2 windows on the north also be shortened in height, again, to accommodate the cabinetry. Those windows on the north side will be set back significantly. They're not on the direct front, on the octagonal. I'm not sure if that's what you said, Michael, but it sounded like you said it was on the bay window side, and it's not. It's set back about 20 to 30 feet. And so we really think that it's far enough back from the street that it's not going to be something that would be noticeable. And this is a project, I'll let Kina speak to this, and we didn't think to put this on the slide. She's in the middle of or in your presentation, she's in the middle of renovating currently. And this project is quite a labor of love on her part, I think. I think a lot of developers in town would have moved to demolish this structure. They basically rebuilt the entire interior with framing, new framing that you can't see on the outside yet, but spent a significant amount of money and effort on the engineering and the structure thus far, just to stabilize the structure and to save it. And arguably it would have been probably less expensive just to tear it down and start over. So our hope is we appreciate the guidelines, but we're hoping that there's some leniency in this case to accommodate these few window changes that we're asking for.
Are there any questions?
I had a question. So in our packet, we have this color printout, and Ken, I understand your point that the north-facing windows are pushed back quite a bit from the
Correct.
front facade. This picture that I think staff provided, I think it's showing us this sort of octagonal or whatever that shape is. And it's got 2 windows in yellow identified as being, is that a mistake? Or?
That's a mistake on our part.
Okay. So the 2 windows would actually be, if you look to the picture to the left, would they be the small ones as that piece of the building butts out?
I'm trying to follow you here.
Okay, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would be pushed back. It would not be the ones directly on the front.
Mm-hmm. So to the left of it and down?
Correct.
It would be those 2 small ones?
Yes.
Okay.
So the windows that you're proposing to have shortened in height on the east side, they're immediately adjacent to and around the corner from the ones that are proposed
That's correct.
on the north side. So
Correct.
there's a correlation between
It's to
those.
accommodate that. To give you some more background on the building, we realize the interior is not part of the purview, but just to give you some idea of what the structure is about. The idea is to save this structure. We think it's the oldest structure in Sosa. Cottage District, still standing. And the idea is to rehabilitate it and turn it into a mixed-use building where it could be used for residential or commercial. And so the idea is to put kitchens in these spaces and to accommodate the counter height. Instead of putting a counter or cabinet right in front of a window, we'd like to shorten those windows.
Yeah, if you want to look at the center lower photo in your attachment, I've highlighted in yellow the two side windows at the east elevation. I mistakenly highlighted the windows at the octagonal feature at the front elevation. The windows that are apparently proposed for change at the north elevation are immediately around the corner from these windows on the east elevation. So it would be this one here and that one there as well. And I think, given that knowledge, we're probably more inclined to support that request as well as the one we supported on the east elevation.
Does the homeowner want to speak, or you don't have to?
Hi, Kina Oden with St. Laguna. Originally we had planned to put the kitchen on the other side of the room, but when you walk in, being an original existing structure, you don't really know what you're getting into until you remove a lot of the things. So it's just not functional to make the kitchens operable in the lower east and the lower east and upper east. You really need to put them on that side. And so, like, if you put them on the other side we originally did, the island would be like right in the middle of the walkway from the living rooms, and it just doesn't make sense. And we tried to do that originally, but it just wasn't going to work.
Any questions from the commission?
Have you determined, or are you willing to say what the use of the building is going to be?
The lower east is an assembly space for classes, for community classes or art events. The lower west would be probably an office or boutique, and the upstairs 2 units would be furnished apartments. And we did, I do have photos in my phone of the interior to show, like, we had to basically rebuild all the walls from the inside, redo all the subfloors, all the floor joists in the ceiling, all new foundations, new rafters. I mean, pretty much a new structure, except for what's not rotted.
So I thought I saw this, I can't find it right now, but what's the color of the cladding versus the color of the infill that you've got at the windows under option B?
What? I'm sorry.
So there's an infill in the window.
Right.
What's the color of that in relation to the rest of the cladding?
We haven't really discussed specifics, but I would assume it would be the same. It would be something that would match the trim or match the body.
So your intent's to match
Correct.
the trim?
Right, not make a big focal point of it.
Okay.
And that was the idea of the detail, and we're okay also with just putting siding over it, but the idea of the detail was for maybe to show historical purposes, to outline of an original window that was there, but the concept was to have basically the bottom panel of the window opaque.
Okay. So in the section details, so it's called out as a medium gray. Or is that the window trim itself?
Yeah, that may have been a little premature on my part, but the idea was that maybe it would be a gray or something that would be, again, complementary with the rest of the structure. The gray came about, the idea being that if we did want to try to replicate a window, the aesthetic of a window, a medium gray, more or less, whenever the light reflects on it, tends to go away and
Okay.
look more like glass than other colors.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak in regards to this project? All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve utilizing option B. on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the downtown design district zoning ordinance as referenced in the staff report. I prefer and would do that with keeping the original trim of the historic window for reference and matching the tone of the adjacent wall so that there's no contrast.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have one additional case, and it is UDC 180027. Michael, could you give us a brief overview, please?
This is a case where the applicant has come forward to request that be able to paint the unpainted brick of this building located at the southwest corner of Northwest 16th and North Black Butler Avenue. You see here in the photos that the existing brick walls are kind of an ochre colored brick, not the traditional red brush color brick. And also in this upper right photo that a portion of the wall has already been painted by the applicant. In the report, we've identified some concerns with respect to the painting of the unpainted brick. There are guidelines in the city's codes for the urban design district that suggest that it should not be painted, and we've outlined those for you, as well as in the building conservation and rehabilitation guidelines. And after that citation, we provided you some analysis of the options that are available to the commission in terms of either allowing it to be painted or requiring it not to be painted and removing the paint that has been applied. In conclusion, we were not able to come up with a signal recommendation to the commission, so our advice to the commission is if you feel that the painting of the brick would enhance the appearance of the building and the guidelines should not apply to this building, then you should approve the project. And if you do not feel that it would enhance the appearance of the building and you think the guidelines should apply, then you would need to recommend denial of the project or deny the project. So that concludes our presentation. We're prepared to respond to any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael?
Michael, I have a quick question. If you go back to the pictures of the building itself, does it, okay, that top left picture, does it include the front portion with the green roof, or is that not part of this?
No, it does not.
Okay.
That is a whole nother space that we're not using at all right now, so that's a whole nother space that I think the owner, Chow Pham, would like to do something else with, so we are just tasked with just painting that north elevation with the signage and the east elevation.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
if you don't mind, could you state your name and address?
My name is David Nguyen. I'm one of the managing partners for Professional Automotive Mechanics. We're located at 1700 Northwest 16th Street.
Great.
But I'd like to start off by apologizing to the commission for painting that elevation right there on the north side. We didn't understand the requirements and the need for that, but we'd like to ask for your consideration to complete our process and our project, and that's the color it is right now. It's a very light gray silver mine, and that's what we would finish it up with up until the brick, and then do the same thing with the other side. And then we have some metallic pieces and some bollards that we need to paint, and we wanted to paint those our company color blue, bright bay blue, I think, is the color.
So per the elevation, it's just the gutters and the bollards that will be the bright blue?
Yeah, and I've tried to, it's hard to, but anything that, those gutters that come down, those four that come down, the bollards on each side of the bay doors will be blue, and that's really it. We wanted to kind of make it pop just because that's our company color, but we wanted to keep it simple and clean.
It's hard to tell you're going to paint it a light gray. How does that light gray relate to the awning that we see here? Or the,
It's very, very similar, very similar. So we tried to keep it kind of similar because we wanted to be uniform, but, you know, our company color had always been silver mine, so we wanted to stick with it.
okay. Are there other questions from the commission members?
Question, do we know how old this building is? Is there any historic element to it, or 1930s?
Yeah, 30s, I believe. It's been in our family for 40-something years, so long time. And they haven't done anything with it, and they just wanted us to kind of give them a new look and update it, so that's what we're doing.
Has anyone tried to do anything to power wash or clean the
I power
bricks?
washed it myself many times, probably 4 times, 5 times, and it just, that's just what it looks like, and it looks too dull, and it would make too much more of a mess, so we're not gonna, we'd rather just paint it.
So to your knowledge, is there any damage to the brick?
There's some mortar issues there that we've got to repair and stuff like that, but, and Jeff Strubles there, he's also helped us with some things in our building, but not really from the outside. I mean, there's some things we got to do, but it's just about more updating the look because we've had people come to our shop and they still can't find it for whatever reason because if you don't do anything, it just looks like we're kind of an abandoned building. I don't know. It's, for us, we wanted to update it to our colors, bring it a little modern, and paint it gray and kind of lighten it up, so to kind of help it out.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in regards to this project? Okay.
You said the roll-up garage doors would be painted blue also?
No, they would not. They would stay white.
Okay.
They would stay white. We power washed that many times too, and it just does not come out.
So everything's getting repainted, including the doors?
Yes.
I'll tell you my concerns. It feels like it lacks a little bit of detail and refinement. I know there are other painted buildings in the area, and after I read this, I drove around, but you know, they typically have a lot more intricacy to them. I have some reservations about the white on white.
Up to us, it just pops for us. I have a plan later on on the actual garage doors to have a mural painted on them as a mural piece, but I know that goes through an entirely other process, so we wanted to do that, but I have a brother that actually is a very, very good painter and wanted to give him that chance, but I know I have to go through a different process for that. But that's our showpiece for that, but that's for later. We really wanted to get this basic painting thing done for the brick and just to make us look like we're there.
Yeah, I may lose my architecture license, but I don't have a problem with painted brick. But there's a texture that you get with the brick that I think we're going to lose here, and that's my biggest concern. And I think it was something that was also noted, maybe or at least referenced in the report. So that's all I have. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion?
I have a comment. I understand. I'm trying to think of. So as I look at this different facade here, you have the brick color.
Yep.
That's kind of that golden color, and then you also have the headers above each window.
Mm-hmm.
And while there's kind of those details that are there, where you also have, basically there's different elements to that, and I think maybe those could pop, and maybe that portion could be restored and kept. I understand the need to paint it and want, but I'm just thinking of once it's painted one single color, it's pretty permanent.
Yeah.
And
I mean, for us, it was,
Yeah.
this is also on behalf of the owners of the building as well, that they wanted something different. They didn't want to keep it as is. It was very much to help bring their building back. And for them, they had no interest in really keeping it the way it was, the look-wise. So for us, this was our best way to keep it simple and clean. Obviously, at the end of the day, I would love to have more, to make it pop a little more. Under the windows where it's white, we could even paint those blue and kind of make it a little pop out more. But for us, I mean, I polished every one of those windows, every single pane of them, just to make them pop out more and make them seem better looking. We try to keep everything as original as possible, but for us, we were just hoping to get it painted so it could look better. To us, it just does not look great at all for us. And we've had many people just drive by because they just don't know it's there. And it's as weird as I can say it, but for me, it's, we wanted to just give it a clean up, refresh look.
You say you power wash the building. Have you ever done any kind of masonry detergents used specifically for cleaning?
Yeah,
not for repointing or any kind of stripping, but specifically made for cleaning of a soiled masonry product.
I would have to check if it was specifically rated for it, but yeah, I mean, we used other detergents. We've used Power Out, Power X Out, Purple Out. I mean, we've tried, but we can certainly try again. But for us, it's just losing us. It just doesn't look as appealing for us as owners and as business owners there.
Again, I don't have an objection to the paint. It's the lack of detail. I'm just afraid it's going to be a big white box.
Well, we didn't want a dark gray. We didn't want to go dark. We at least wanted to be a little lighter and brighter. That's just not our style. I think Tyler's been in our shop. He's looked at it. It kind of matches the inside for us as well, and how we designed it. It would be, I hope you guys approve. This is just something we wanted to just get done and make it look nice for us, especially.
Okay, are there any other questions, and is there some comment? Jeff, do you want to come up? Jeff, if you could give us your name and address, please.
Jeff Struble, 1601 North Blackwelder. And I want to compliment the applicant. They've done a great job fixing the building up. It looks so much better, and it is, they've done a great job on what they've done with the building. I have buildings on both sides of it, and it has painted brick, and I wish it was not painted. I think that the architecture of these old buildings with not painted brick looks really good. I think there's other things with the top and the garage doors and stuff maybe that could be done with some accents. I'm not in favor of painting beautiful historic brick, but unfortunately, the majority of the Plaza District does have painted brick on it. But this is especially the front part with the Ludovici tile up front is just beautiful, kind of historic part of the plaza, and hoping that something you could do with the garage doors or maybe with something else to kind of add some features to it to make it pop. But I'm not in favor of painting unpainted brick. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any comments, any other comments?
The mention of the tile, I know that's not part of this application, but would the plan be to eventually paint the portion of the building that has the green tile also?
I believe so, but I'd have to ask Nancy Chow Pham on about that, on what she wants to do.
Is there a motion that we want to put forward? Oh, sorry, I apologize. Go ahead and come up.
Jason Johnston, 2000 Cary. I'm really here for other reasons, but I had no idea this was going to come up. I started working on the Plaza District 20 years ago when the only thing we knew was the name of the hookers. And I'm actually the last person to be against progress. I saw the first Stubblin building go up from a mess and created the first office for the Plaza District a long time ago. Normally, I don't care for blonde brick. However, in this particular situation, this is kind of a placeholder in that whole community. Been there a long time, and I know it has been his family a long time, but it just seems to me like, especially with the tile work in that section, it's really not going to benefit from being painted. There are lots of other things that can be done without doing that. Like I said, I'm the last person to go against progress. I've been very happy to see all we've done in the Gatewood area and on the Plaza District in those intervening 22 years. But this time around, I think I remember when Heritage area actually had a building scrubbed that was painted because the Circle K people thought they could paint it and they realized they couldn't. So I know this paint can be removed, but in this particular case, I'm probably against this little part of progress.
Thank you very much.
So I would just add, I certainly appreciate the intent to improve and appreciate the new business. It's a great business for the neighborhood. But you and the owners, I think, have a beautiful brick historic building that it would be a shame to make a generic gray in the name of branding. So I'm going to make a motion to deny the application on the basis that the project does not meet the regulations and guidelines of the Urban Design Overlay District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report.
Second?
Great. All in favor of Ben's motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you very much.
I have a comment on this. Could there be any approval to paint even the garage doors? I'm just thinking, I know that because there's a portion of this that could be painted that may not have that type of value.
You would need approval to paint the garage doors, but my guess would be that it would be less than 20%. We could do that with administrative case application.
We're not here to do it for branding, and I really hope that it's not about that, because it's not. For us, it was for the owners. Twan, when he passed away, he asked us to paint it. He asked us to make it look good. He asked us to make this, but make him proud of it, and he wasn't at all in this. For me, I really ask you guys to reconsider, because, and I'll work with the commission to figure out a paint scheme to make it pop, to do whatever we need to do about that, but for us, it's not about branding. It's just about to make our family happy or make our family proud, and I just really ask you guys to reconsider this application, because
So somebody will stop me if I'm out of place, but I would recommend that you go back, and if you do want to paint it, you come up with a way to address the comments that we've made. It seems like there's a lack of detail and intricacy that will be lost because of the brick. And perhaps there's some strategies out there that let you preserve both. I'm not trying to be prescriptive, but rather, based on what we have in front of us, at least my vision for how it's going to end up is just a big white box. And I'm afraid that would take away from the Willie Plaza District.
to us, it doesn't look white at all. I mean, we have our white as the border on there, where the windows are, that's white. I know the building next door to us, Geraldine, that's all white. That's not what we wanted it to look like. The one that's up there on the far right, I mean, that's all white. For us, it was going to pop more than that. It was going to be different.
So there are a couple of options that I would suggest. The applicant could work with staff to come up with a couple of different paint schemes or non-paint schemes.
Yeah.
Under this application number, so you wouldn't have to pay an extra fee. That would require the committee could take a vote. Somebody could motion and second to rescind the previous motion and then make a motion to continue this while we work back and forth. Or the commission could leave the motion in action, and then we could just work on a new application that would bring forth some other ideas. And I don't have a preference. I think it sounds like it may be a benefit to the applicant if it's rescinded and continued, but that's at your discretion.
Because they wouldn't have to pay the
They
additional...
wouldn't have to pay another fee. But that's also assuming that that is something you would be willing to do.
I'm very willing to work with the commission, whoever I need to work with to get it.
I just want to make a comment. I wouldn't vote for the changing a paint scheme. I'm in favor of preserving the brick, partly because of its adjacency to that other corner building with the tile.
I think she wants to keep that side of it just because it is different. It is very different. It's green. The tile is great. The brick on that side is a lot better than the brick on our side. It just,
Well,
it's not as,
I would, just my opinion, I wouldn't vote to rescind the motion, but I just want to make that comment. I would be in favor of painting the garage doors to do the update that you have in mind. And my comment would be to bring out that accent of the trim above the windows. I think that's an enhancement, and it is unique. It keeps that historic style, but would bring out that color that you're trying to achieve, something noticeable, something newer. So it seems with as many garage doors as are there, that would be a place to start to make an improvement without losing that historic character. That's just my opinion.
So this is a little unusual. Lisa's given us some options. Is there a motion that we want to follow up Lisa's comment with? So I guess the only option now is to either resubmit under a different permit or go to the Board of Adjusters.
Correct. There is a mechanism for appeal, and Michael can fill you in on that after the meeting.
One question for Lisa. In the staff report, it mentions that if we choose to deny it, there is the issue of what to do about the portion of the building that has already been painted. Do we need to take any action on that, or can that be handled through code enforcement?
That will just be handled as code enforcement. Right.
Could that portion of the building that's already been painted be incorporated into the mural program in the plaza?
It could be, if presume the property owner is willing to go that route, yes.
I personally wouldn't object to having the portion of the building that's already painted to just finish it out and find some logical stopping point. My reservation's painting it all. So, to me, there seems like there might be a middle ground here. I don't, if it's all or none, I think you've gotten the answer.
it isn't. I mean, I'm definitely willing to work with the commission on what they feel is appropriate. It's, for us, it's, they did not really want to keep it exactly the way it was. They've had it like that for 45 years. They've gotten complaints about it for 45 years. So it's a little odd for me to come in here, and I thought it was complaints about the building. It wasn't about just the historic nature of the building. We understand that. We've had it in our family for 45, 50 years. Our family's had a lot of these buildings, in the past 50 years. So for them, it was about seeing more progress, seeing about how do we change it, because this is their flagship building, and they wanted it to look nice. They've been proud of it, so they wanted to do something.
So I think you've got a couple of options. I'd encourage you to visit with Michael, and I think he's a great resource for you.
Yes, he's been very helpful. I mean, I can't thank Michael enough for that, so I appreciate that.
Great. Well, thank you very much, then. I have lost my agenda. Thank you. We are moving on to other business, which we have none of.
There was an amendment.
Oh, sorry. Paula told me. Okay, well, we have no other business. We do have communications. And we are going to have a presentation. Is it by you, Lisa? Okay.
the way, is this?
Hello. Yeah, we sent out an amended agenda the other day because we remembered we wanted to get this item in front of you. We're not asking for action on this item, but we anticipate asking for a recommendation at our next meeting, so I wanted the opportunity to describe and explain what we're doing with this ordinance amendment. And I know some of you have been involved in previous discussions on some of these same topics over the last few years. So combined into this one ordinance amendment are, we're trying to finally, for some of you, incorporate changes that resulted from our Cottage District study and stakeholders outreach that concluded at the end of last summer. I'll get into more detail on what those conclusions were. So we'll incorporate those changes. The past several months, Automobile Alley Association and other property owners and planning staff have been studying the guidelines, and mainly instigated by recent development on Automobile Alley. We're also going to capture part of the list of running changes that planning staff keeps when we notice something in the ordinance isn't working quite the way it was intended. There is some leftover language from a previous ordinance edit that was inadvertently left in the urban design section, so we're going to try to remove it successfully this time. And one item that I think most everybody who works in design review downtown is excited about, and that's changing most of the fence regulations to guidelines. So Cottage District, many of you participated in this effort that was lasted in 2016, 2017. The initial premise was because of all the development that's happening in Cottage District the past several years, there were questions about how does the downtown development framework, how does that inform the district, how do the existing downtown guidelines inform the district, with the current development and current direction, how and if do any of these regulations and guidelines need to be modified. So we had a big stakeholders workshop at the Civic Center a couple of summers ago. We had numerous smaller stakeholder meetings with a vast variety of participants. And we had a kind of a final report out at the library last summer that some of you may have been at. So the main conclusions of all of that work were that, yes, what the downtown development framework describes for the Cottage District and that area of downtown is valid, with some minor edits that we'll get into in a second. That as this commission in particular has dealt with the existing guideline about having front entries 24 inches above grade. That was written when the vision was about keeping the bungalow style of home, but since the trend has been toward contemporary homes, the commission has not held that guideline in any new homes for the last several years. And the stakeholders group agreed that that needed to come out. There's no reason for it to stay. Changing many of the fence regulations to guidelines. Right now in downtown, the fence regulations are extremely specific. It says you have to have steel picket. The pickets have to be a certain dimension. The spacing between the pickets needs to be a certain dimension. You can have a split rail wood, ornamental metal, you can have brick pilasters. So that all sounds fine, but it basically results in one kind of fence. And we have a lot of applicants for a lot of very good design reasons, want to use perforated metal, want to use mesh, want to use stone, want to use concrete, none of which are allowed. So the fence regulations that would remain are the heights for front, side, and rear yard. Those would not change. But everything about materials and openness factor would move to guidelines. We think that's the easiest way to give some guidance to applicants and property owners of what they can install without being so restrictive that they have to go for a variance every time they want to do something creative. Because part of the purpose and intent of the Design Review District is to encourage diversity in styles. Also related to the Cottage District stakeholders was for us to add specific language stating that design review staff has the authority to administratively approve certificate of approvals in Cottage. There is clear language saying design review staff may issue CAs in downtown, urban design staff may issue CAs in urban design districts, but nowhere does it explicitly say that urban design staff may issue CAs in downtown districts such as Cottage. So it would be the same threshold as is currently for downtown, which is 20,000 square feet, which sounds like a lot because it is a big threshold. In practice for urban design, we have always taken new construction of any kind in Cottage, of any kind, any size. We've always taken it to commission. So that came up during some cases 2 years ago, the question of whether or not we really had the authority. Staff's ability to administratively approve is important because otherwise applicants always have to go to committee even for very minor revisions. Automobile Alley. Automobile Alley is not in this commission's purview, but I did want to briefly explain parts of the ordinance that capture it for your information. We studied, there's a document called the Automobile Alley Design Guidelines, and it was written about 20 years ago, and a lot of people want to follow it. It's unclear when and how it was ever codified. And then with the development of the downtown development framework and with the current ordinance, we looked at, the question was, do we need to update it? So we looked at what other regulations and guidelines we already had to see if the items in the Automobile Alley Design Guidelines were already captured in these numerous other resources. And we found the answer was yes, that between the building conservation guidelines, which you've had a couple of cases on today that deal with those, that between those and the DDF, that all of the issues, most of the issues in the Automobile Alley Design Guidelines are captured between those two documents. One item that was not captured, that we're proposing to capture with an addition to the bulk standards table, is to specify a maximum building height. Right now, the Automobile Alley Guidelines state the maximum height is relative to the adjacent existing building. So then the question is, well, what if there's not an existing adjacent building? Or what if your existing adjacent building is really small? Because otherwise, DBD regulations don't have a maximum height. So the consensus was to limit the height north of 6th Street to 80 feet and to not limit it below 6th Street. So this map image shows the general extents of Automobile Alley. So buildings above would be limited and buildings below would not be limited. And that recognizes the proximity of these buildings to the central business district, which is much higher and more dense. General downtown changes, a lot of this is from staff's running list of things that need to be fixed. Language regarding expiration dates for certificates of approval. When staff can't find it, that means it's located in the wrong place. Eliminate use of chain link fencing for all street frontages. Right now, the regulation reads chain link is not permitted for street frontages of non-residential uses. Well, for downtown, it's really inappropriate for any street frontage. And that doesn't put anybody not in compliance. Change detailed regulations, we talked about that all those regulations are going to move to guidelines. There's still a reference in the code about the downtown Oklahoma City Streetscape Master Plan, which is not in use. It's been supplanted by the DDF, the Trees and Plants for Oklahoma City, lots of other guidelines. Urban design changes, this has come up anytime we've reviewed a case in Paseo area. There is leftover duplicate language that has the old regulations for NC Tract 5. And every time we review a case, we have to go back and research, and applicants ask, well, which set of regulations apply? And so we're going to, the old regulations were supposed to be omitted in a previous ordinance. They weren't for whatever reason, although it's clear that they were intended to be removed. So this will just remove them from another section. So our next steps is we're doing this informational presentation to you guys to get some initial feedback and to give you a heads up prior to your August meeting. Then we will take this to downtown, again back to Urban Design Commission, to Planning Commission, Urban Development Committee, and then we'll proceed through Planning Commission and City Council hearings. Then after this effort, we are currently working on various minor edits to the downtown development framework, and those will be done this fall, and we'll bring back those back through the affected committees, including Planning Commission. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. So I did not distribute the ordinance text in this because I wanted a chance to explain the premise before we did that. I did share it with Lee at his request, but you will have the ordinance and a summary of the changes and the staff report in your August packet.
Lisa, is it time to talk about the minor edits that you're talking about, the DDF, just generally?
Yes.
What?
One was I don't have it in front of me, but at the stakeholders meeting, everyone agreed there needed to be some minor changes to the description of the character for Cottage District. Specifically about the extent to which views were character-defining items. So that's one part that came out of Cottage. The other was we updated things like the streetcar route isn't shown in the DDF. It's not completely shown. Streetcar route, the convention center site is not shown. There are some right-of-way lands that are shown as being developable, but they're not. So that's the key changes. We've added street names. A lot of the maps don't have street names. Some of them have an incorrect street name, which consistently disorients people. So those are the big things.
Any other questions for Lisa? Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you. If in the weeks ahead you think of other things, please let me know.
So next we've got a couple of administrative approval reports.
Yeah, we had 3 cases, I believe. I think my agenda disappeared. Some windows being replaced on a project, and I don't recall the other 2, but yeah. And then at the project at the northeast corner of 23rd and Hudson, where the Dunkin' Donuts and 31 Flavors are going, there's a removal of a metal canopy and a change to the menu board. And then the third case was approval of a sign for the garage we talked about earlier.
Thank you. Any other comments from planning department staff? Comments from commission members? All right, our next regular committee meeting is Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018. New applications were to be submitted to staff by 4 p.m. Tuesday, July 24th, 2018. Revisions and information on continued projects are to be submitted by July 31st, 2018. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.